Good people, today let's talk about all the elements that you should consider when setting up a microphone for streaming or regular comms, what to do and what not to do. So here are my 10 tips on getting the best sound.
We have partnered with Blue Microphones and Logitech on this one, so let's dive right in.
The first tip is to use the right microphone pattern. So it's kind of a fad now to give us control of the recording patterns, but to be honest, unless you're doing like ASMR style stereo recordings
That can sound really cool when you whisper between left and right channels, plus do that beard tickle to create a rain-like effect. You know?
But in general, you'll want to use a cardioid pattern to capture what's in front of the microphone and suppress everything that's behind. If you have a Yeti microphone with the quad patterns, perhaps omnidirectional might be useful to capture everything in the 360 type of degree environment, or this bidirectional in very limited scenarios. So cardioid should be your choice for comms and streaming. Next up, let's focus on the room setup. Now, echo is my friend. We're very familiar, especially in a larger room like this that is not treated. There's no large furniture to cancel out the sound and to really absorb that echo. While in my living room, as you can hear, there's absolutely no echo. There's nice warmth to the sound as well. So nothing on the microphone in terms of parameters has changed. It's identical to what you just heard in the office. And obviously your set has a massive role to play in the quality of your vocals. Also, please excuse my voice. I am slightly under the weather. Hopefully this won't be an issue. So carpets, large curtains, soft furniture all contribute to removing reverberations. It is why I close the curtains on my windows during recording so that I can eliminate that extra echo from the bounce of the glass windows. I even turn on my AC unit to raise the noise floor of the room to drown out some of that echo bouncing around the room. And I even position the microphone on some sort of foam material, and also have a reflector with a big towel on it to kind of absorb the sound, and so it doesn't escape as much in my vicinity. Of course, acoustic panels, noise blankets, and bass traps are your friends, but they are a very expensive solution to the echo problem.
Well. Small package, but with a lot of responsibility. The new Lian Li SP750 power supply brings performance to the SFX space with a fully modular design and complementing low-profile cables. The 750-watt 80+ gold unit should satisfy most SFF needs, especially with a 0 RPM mode under 40% load in this pretty elegant exposed aluminum housing. It's about the size, the power, and where it comes from. Check out the SP750 SFX power supply down below.
Tip number 3 is best microphone positioning. It's actually very simple. The closer to your mouth, the better. Of course, without eating the microphone, and about this much distance from the microphone to your mouth. Now, to record your voice while being far away, you'll need to increase the gain on the microphone, but that also picks up a little bit more of your room. We don't want that.
No, we don't.
The closer it is to your mouth, the lower the gain, the better the vocal capture. I always position the microphone at an angle as well, and not directly in front of your mouth to capture all the p and plosives. And I love placing these desktop microphones on a piece of foam, the thicker the better, to eliminate reverberations from the desk and from the peripherals, and it actually makes a huge difference. So this would be my optimal place of a microphone with a built-in stand while I game, and not like this where the capture cone picks up the keyboard first, so definitely avoid that. Which leads us into tip number 4 and the insanely beneficial use of a microphone arm. So this lifts the microphone off the desk to eliminate all the sounds you will normally pick up, like hitting your desk slightly, movement of the desk that will be audible by the bass and internally by the microphone as well. It's a lot more comfortable. The boom arm is easy to work with, that can still come close to your mouth at an angle and simply be retracted when not in use. It's also cleaner for cable management. The only downside are all the upside down labels, but at least the knobs are still in correct clockwise operation. Now, this next portion is all about software, as so much about these USB microphones has to do with proper software setup. Of course, it can help improve the vocals, add some fun with voice effects, and configure Sidetone, which I love for closed back headphones so you can actually hear what you're saying. We are going to focus on Blue Voice here as an example, but these tips will carry over to other microphone software from both open source publishers and other microphone software.
So if you have any of the USB Yetis, like the original Yeti, the Yeti Nano, or the Yeti X, this is a great value add, and it's free.
Let's start with tip number 5, and that's to test before you record. So you can always record just a simple voice recording or enable the truly awful. Listen to this device in the control panel to just hear if there is any buzzing happening or anything weird happening with the sample rate artifacts like we've seen with previous NZXT microphones. So I use Audacity because it's free and I can actually see my gain level, so I know when I don't peak or am I too quiet. Now, Blue Voice has an even better integration, in my opinion, while recording a sample that plays on a loop, allowing you to configure all the settings and immediately hear the difference. The most important thing here being the input gain, or how sensitive the microphone is, versus the master output, or how loud the recording is being sent out to people listening on the other side. Moving on to tip number 6, let's use the equalizer to make you sound better. So on my recordings for videos, I always add some bass and lower the mid-tone region around here to suppress some of that natural echo I get in my room. And this way my voice sounds a bit more closed off, which complements my environment. So it's pretty awesome to have these features built in from the get-go with Blue Voice. I normally don't touch the high slider, I actually lower it a bit because you can make it sound too sharp and too detailed, and my voice generally does not benefit from extra treble. The high pass filter is also something I always set to 100 Hz to remove any low frequency humps. Now, because anything you change is reflected immediately in the sample recording, it's just very easy to fine tune what you like. Plus you can change the frequency and the width of these modifications for all 3 levels. I would recommend, of course, you cycle between the presets to hear what you like and then adjust slightly accordingly. For my voice, what you've been listening to now, I find the crisp and warm preset to be the best balance of warmth, just enough detail for smooth delivery, and that nice roll off for both when I start and stop speaking. And by the way, this is what the Yeti X sounds like without Blue Voice enabled. It's fairly neutral, it's fairly flat, but as soon as I enable Blue Voice with my custom crisp and warm preset, it just brings everything to life.
Don't you agree?
Which leads me into number 7, and that's understanding advanced features for fine tuning such as gate, compressor, de-esser, depopper, and delimiter. So a noise gate mutes the microphone below a specified decibel level. This means if your mouse clicks are below -35 decibels, it will not be picked up by the microphone. A compressor evens out the volume of your microphone, so when you whisper or you speak loudly, the software tries to balance, to a more consistent listening levels. De-esser reduces the harshness of the S's and the hissing of high frequencies. Depopper reduces the pops and the plosives in speech by reducing the target frequencies in the lower regions. And the limiter makes sure that you don't peak while still having consistent volume. And to be honest, unless you're like an audio engineer, you won't need to access all the additional functionality within each parameter. So I like the simplified approach here, but you can still go in and tweak whatever you like. For tip number 8 is understanding when to use noise reduction. So if you need to eliminate AC noise, that consistent hum of the distant highway, maybe the sound of the rain outside, noise reduction is great, but it's not meant to, cancel out keyboard strokes or people yelling out in the background. So this is me speaking with noise reduction enabled, as I have my AC running at full blast and some crowds talking in the distance to simulate like a cafe environment. So it's pretty decent at channeling your focus towards my voice. Now let's disable it and hear how it sounds. Now with noise reduction disabled, all those noises are slightly more audible and are a bit more distracting, of course. I will say the noise reduction feature with NVIDIA Broadcast is a game changer, as it's smart enough to pick up vocals only, and even in a very loud environment, this is both for extreme scenarios, and if you cannot get rid of those keyboard strokes, for example, or something from the table, it completely cancels everything out, and it's incredible. Of course, there is a bit of vocal modulation happening with your voice, but it is really smart at just picking up your voice and canceling everything out with NVIDIA Broadcast. And it's also built in right into G-Hub. That's awesome. Of course, there are instances where you don't want noise reduction for like ASMR content, as it might alter your vocal properties too much, and I find having those imperfections of like the room picked up to be more authentic, and just hearing white noise to be more pleasant, especially for ASMR.
For tip number 9, let's introduce some fun factor with voice modulations, sample packs. And this is definitely something that's very well done with Blue Voice once again, where you choose an effect that stacks on top of your previous vocal preset, which is great.
So here's the really popular helium chipmunk.
There's a bunch of tiered presets that all sound kind of similar, so you can find the one you like the best. This is Sinister, and I'm really impressed
By the whisper preset, which sounds pretty decent, where it's just turning off or turning on my regular speech to sound like I'm whispering. And if I go into the, let's see, gender shift to female, I definitely sound like my sister.
DJ Robot.
But of course, please remember, use these in limited moderation to preserve their novelty. And also this suite is loaded with audio samples to be used with Logitech peripherals only, but still a really useful feature like spice up your stream or a comms call. So for example, there's a bunch of languages. So this is Russian. It's a little weird sounding in terms of the voice acting, but you know, applause. Thank you, thank you. That's a high quality sample. There's a battle horn, it's kind of long though.
It is pretty epic though. Coming this fall.
Or the distorted laugh. You will need a Logitech peripheral, keyboard, headset, or mouse to map these samples onto like a separate G key, for example. But still, it's fairly easy to use, and it would definitely spice up your stream, again, as long as you use them in moderation. And the last tip is to understand microphone monitoring or sidetone. So it is very annoying recording something, you're using the microphone while wearing closed headphones and not being able to hear yourself. And being able to hear yourself in real time without any delay is actually a huge positive for recordings and comm purposes. So all of the Blue USB microphones, for example, have the headphone jack at the bottom, and this allows you to plug in the headphone and use the microphone as the sound card, plus being able to have this real-time monitoring sidetone that is very beneficial. And that's used for comfort purposes only and not to judge the microphone sensitivity, because there's a difference between headphone volume of like what I'm listening to right now versus microphone gain and how hot the microphone is. So you can use the gain meter in Audacity or G-Hub to judge the microphone hotness, while microphone sidetone to just hear yourself and what you're saying. All right, so I hope this was helpful. Share some of your own knowledge and wisdom from your own experience for the rest of the audience. I'm Dmitry, and we'll talk to you in the next video.